Welcome, seekers of the unknown, as we pull back the veil between the living and beyond. Unraveling questions that plague our minds, and oftentimes presenting the evidence that may prove them true. Let us take you on a journey where paranormal becomes normal, and where what is right behind you just might be echoes of the afterlife or something more. But fair warning, once you step into the supernatural with us, you might just stay haunted.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Stay Haunted.
Hello.
Happy Monday.
It's a happy, hot Monday.
I have to let the dog in. He's scratching at the door.
Very, very hot. We hit a nice, I think here, a toasty 99 degrees. Heat index was 111. You know, it's all good.
Keep talking. The dog's barking.
The dog's bark. Oh, Carmela just that's where she had to run out and let Lacey in, our puppy dog. So she was scratching at the door. She's like, let me in.
It's too hot.
So we had so it's a little toasty. Going to be toasty here over the next few days here in New Jersey. I'm sure you guys in Ohio are a little bit toasty warm also. So how was your weekend?
Good.
Warm.
Yeah. It was toasty here too, for sure. 990s. What did we get?
Oh, good Lord. It was, so we went up to this little town called Shipshewana, Indiana. And it's in Amish country. And they have all summer long, they have, Amish flea markets, and they, non-processed Amish food. I mean, the stuff is just delicious. So we go up there, and Saturday was one of the only weekends that they actually had all the events going on. So we went up there, and it was 97 degrees and 93% humidity.
Oof.
It was warm walking
It
around.
was warm.
Now, I got to ask you a question because we have 5 minutes from us. We have a flea market, and there's an Amish store there from Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And do they have donuts there? Because they have some great donuts at our
Cinnamon
store.
rolls and noodles and bread and pie.
I get the Long Johns.
We get Long Johns. Have you ever had the Long Johns? The Long Johns with the cream and oh my God.
That's so good.
Oof.
This place it's called Amish Pies, and it's basically like the original Dolly Madison. They'll put blueberry in it. They'll put strawberry, apple, custard, and they're about this big and about that thick, and all natural, no preservatives, and they're just, oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm. Too good.
And then they've got a restaurant there that you can go in and you can order Amish meals that are it's like processed. Nothing. I mean, it's all just straight from the earth food, and it's my God, good.
It's the best.
They have it's a Oreo cookie, Oreos and cream. Oh my God. Like I'll eat a good donut, and I like Sugar Rush and stuff. Literally, I could only eat half of this thing. After half of it, I was in like a sugar coma. I was like, I can't even
Yikes.
It was beyond sugary.
Your
it was
teeth
good.
hurt, your head hurts, your heart hurts.
Everything. But it was good. So, but our weekend, we had a good weekend. We what did we do Friday night we went out. We took my sister and my brother-in-law out to dinner, up to New Hope, Pennsylvania.
Oh, nice.
Ate dinner at a place called the Salt House. Dates back to like 1753 or whatever. And so we had a nice little dinner with them. And then Saturday, well, you did something in the morning. You had to do you went with Robbie. So Robbie had the unfortunate accident with the car.
Right.
With the truck. So Saturday was go out and haggle and find a new truck.
Can't you just like your ShopRite order, just put in what you want and what
Right.
you have to pay, and then just go pick it up and leave? I want to talk to 50 different people.
We actually had a dealership like that in Phoenix that we bought
10 cars.
between
Really?
between us and our sons. Yeah.
Within a 3 or 4 year span, 10 cars.
I would literally call him up, tell him what I was looking for, and tell him what I
Right.
wanted to pay, and he would go,
Okay.
"When can you come down?"
Right.
And we would literally walk in, go out. I'd pick my truck, or she'd pick her RAV4 or whatever she was getting, and within 45 minutes, we were home. We were driving home.
That's wonderful. We were there 3-4 hours.
Yeah. But
Oh
you
yeah,
got
We did that. But the guy that he said to Robbie, "Oh, aren't you so excited you're getting a new car? And come on, come with me." He goes, "Aren't you so excited?" And Robbie's like, "No, I'm not excited.
it's like I just had to give you
I
money.
just had to give you money. I don't want to sign papers, dude." I'm like, "Okay, just get up and go, please. We're prolonging this another hour."
Yeah.
But it is painful.
And then
But at least they had the truck for him. Though.
yeah.
At
You know,
least.
the Toyota, your
It was another Tacoma.
another Tacoma. So, and then what did we do Sunday? Sunday, we had a nice little outing to Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and we visited, it's called the Vampire and Paranormal Museum. I'd never seen so many crucifixes and crosses
Stakes
and
and
stakes.
mallets.
Oh, interesting.
Not just small mallets, like big mallets. like
Get the job done, mallets.
Yeah. But yeah, very eclectic location. Met the owner, Ed Kermani. Very, very nice gentleman. Great location. You know, he has that location, that part of the grounds, but then outside he has all statues because he's a collector and stuff. So,
Yeah.
but of statues and, you know, busts
Different
and stuff
stuff.
like artwork, you name it. So,
Oh,
Todd and Carmela sent us some pictures. If you're ever in the area, it's something.
yeah.
absolutely.
It's different.
So, hello to everybody in the chat.
Yes,
Yep.
welcome back.
Oh.
I'll bet you guys are wondering what we have in store for you tonight.
And they just keep
That's right.
They just keep one. They just want to watch.
to see our wonderful guests as always.
That's right.
We got two awesome guests tonight.
You want to talk about lots of crosses and crucifix,
I was going to say that.
right? Did we not set the stage for that one? Or what?
Mhm.
So everybody, tonight we have Father Bob Bailey and Reverend Father Ken Torres of the Holy Sword Apostolate. Please welcome Father Bob and Father Ken.
Hello, Father Bob.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Thanks
you
for having
so
us
much.
on.
Well,
Thanks for being here.
thank you for being here.
So I normally read individually your bios for our guests that are on the show, but Lord have mercy, you guys' bio.
This long.
Yeah.
So Father Bob, could you start and tell everybody about yourself and how you went from the clergy to the paranormal?
Well,
Or
ever
was
since
it-
I was a young child, I've always been interested in paranormal, quote unquote, but it was in a different realm. Like I was into miracles, apparitions, things like that. And so it wasn't a big leap of faith to go from that into the rest of the paranormal. I always had an interest, particularly in good versus evil, since I was young. I had a priest in the family who really mentored me at a young age in the spiritual life and also in theology and about evil. He didn't hold back. Taught me about spiritual warfare, the devil, and all of that as part of things that we talked about. I always felt in my heart that I was meant to enter the spiritual battle between good and evil. And I remember I was with my friends back in the 70s, went to go see The Omen. And I remember after the movie saying to myself, oh my gosh, I see myself in that movie. Somehow I'm going to be involved in the battle between good and evil. And so when I became a priest, that was on the back of my mind. And it was later on that through circumstances that I met someone who introduced me, invited me to do a house cleansing of a house. And then through meeting Ryan Buell, I got to be on Paranormal State. And then I started my own ministry back then, PWSM, which is the Presidium Warriors of St. Michael. And now Father Ken and I are building this network of the Holy Sword.
Oh, fantastic. And what is the network of the Holy Sword?
Basically, it's an organization that tries to deal through education, through intercession, through also helping people holistically. Father Ken has been really instrumental in bringing people on to the network, and that have different capabilities and different gifts, whether they're gifted people, whether they're assessors, and whether they're demonologists. I just brought on a couple that in the psychological realm, and we hope to also get someone in the medical, so that we can help people holistically in there, and then through the website, and through talks, hopefully. And we talk all the time excitedly about the possibilities of where this ministry could go. So maybe Father Ken can tell you some more too.
Yeah, go ahead, Father Ken. Introduce yourself and how you got into this. You have an interesting background also.
Yeah, Reverend Father Ken Torres. I'm actually an Orthodox priest. I am the Western expression of the Catholic faith, the Church. And my background, I am a medically retired U.S. Marine. I served in theater. When I got out, I did a couple of jobs with some alphabet soup agencies, but ministry was kind of always my calling. I grew up in a Protestant church, Baptist and Pentecostal. And while I was going through seminary school, I fell in love with the theology, the apostolic churches, Catholicism, and Orthodoxy. And so here I am now. And as Father Bob mentioned, the Holy Sword Apostolic Clergy Network, we're a small, private, independent ministry, and the goal and the objective is to depart compassion and help those who are struggling spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. I mean, the ministry is not specifically catered to the supernatural, but I mean, there are people out there who are suffering, like myself. I'm a chaplain, master's in pastoral counseling. I'm a board certified mental health coach. Along with that, the idea is to create this network with individuals who are qualified. And so Father Bob and I, we talk to these individuals, we reach out to them, we conduct very thorough background checks, we conduct assessments, we look at their training, we look at their capabilities, we look at their credentials, and we decide whether or not they will be a good fit for our network. And keynote, everyone and anyone who is in this clerical network is anonymous. So it's not like this exorcism club, exorcism drive-through where everybody's going to be posting, well, I'm part of this or that. It's all anonymous, it's all quiet, and only those who are in it will know who they are.
Oh,
Very interesting.
That is.
yeah.
So have you? So I know, I believe I saw, Father Bob, that you built it, or you guys launched it earlier this year or the end of 2024 that you made the announcement. So have you had other ministers or priests that have become involved with the network?
Yes. Yeah, we've had, and so when we're looking for the priests or we're looking for the ministers, there's got to be a certain criterion. If you're in an apostolic church, if you're in the apostolic faith, for example, like Anglican, Lutheran, Old Rite Catholic, or whatever it is, we need to make sure that you have valid apostolic succession, valid and listed apostolic succession, not something that was just downloaded from the internet that says, hey, you know what I mean, blah, blah, blah. And then as far as our other Christian counterparts, like Baptist, Pentecostal, Seventh-day Adventists, we talk to them and we do the discernment basically by the fruits of their labor. There's a compassion, if there's an understanding, and if there's a willingness to want to work in unity, then we also give them the opportunity. But the understanding is, Father Bob and I, we come from a certain background and we maintain it. So it's either, you have to follow the instructions that we give you from either an Orthodox or a Catholic theological framework. And that is because the church has got thousands of years with history and theological framework in dealing with the supernatural and spirits.
And I think it's slowly growing because part of the reason for the network is that we can't be everywhere, physically. And when I was doing PWSM, you know, I was trying to build a network, but it would always get people in places that I couldn't find anybody that I knew. So we're slowly looking for people in areas that would be willing to
Right.
lend a helping hand if that should, if we should need that.
Yeah,
Um,
agreed. And it's not so much the clerical part. We're just looking for people who are honestly interested and have a heart, who have this vocation of wanting to talk to those who are in need. Sometimes people just want someone to listen to them. Sometimes people just want someone to pray for them and just be there for them. And so we're trying to offer that. By no means necessary is this supposed to be or meant to be an outward exorcism ministry per se. But if a deliverance or prayer needs to happen, then Father Bob and I will consult and will prescribe the required prescription.
I think the natural thing is that many people will approach us with that because of our background, you know. But sometimes when they approach us with that issue, we find out it's not that issue at all. There are other things that need to be tended to, and we try to offer that as best as we can. And and we have a very powerful, committed prayer warriors who pray for us in all that we do and the cases that we have.
Yeah.
So I have a quick question. So I never thought, we're both Roman Catholic, raised Roman Catholic, Carmel and I, and we've always, brought up with the history of the, heaven and hell along those lines and, demons and angels. I never thought about like the Presbyterian or Seventh-day Advents. I didn't know, not that, I mean, it's all a religion, I guess, are there priests or do those areas of priesthood of religions deal with what you two are dealing with, I guess, as far as paranormal activity?
Well,
Not all of them.
Yeah, and
Not
that's the
all
thing
of
that
them
Father
do.
Bob, yeah, that's what Father Bob and I always have to sit down and discuss with those individuals. I think what's happening now is you'll see this social media trend, this whole blow up now. Everybody's got a collar, everybody's ordained online. Someone picks up a book, and all of a sudden they're this qualified, certified exorcist with no seminary training, no theological training, and no spiritual foundation. And so when we meet with these presbyters or these other clergy, we really sit down and talk to them and ask them, where are they at? Where is your thought process? What do you think this is? And we've had to turn away some people. For example, if we talk to a presbyter or a would-be candidate and we say, well, this person has the flu, and they tell us, well, that's a demon. The flu is demonic. Every major ailment is demonic, and it has to be prayed away. Well, then we know that we have a conflict of interest, because now you're not ruling out the natural. There's a sensationalism of, well, I am now in this clerical role and I possess this divine authority, and so it's got to be demonic, and that's not true. Which is why we're really meticulous in how we approach. So we're slowly building, but this is not a club, a social club. This is not for everyone to be in. So as people come along, we go through that process and we evaluate, and we try to establish and ensure that maybe they fit with our mindset and our belief system.
That's actually
And a lot of, and also what we like to do is be a service to those who are doing this work of investigating and stuff, to teach them proper precautions. That's the one thing that I lament, is that a lot of investigative groups go in there and they don't have a serious prayer life. They don't count that as a major part of their work, and it's dangerous. So I came from a history of working with a number of different paranormal groups who would call me, and when things looked dark, and trying to give workshops to these people on, this is reality. This is what you need to do. This is what you need not to do. Uh, this is a line you don't cross. And that's what we hope to be able to do, also teaching people with that.
Right. I mean, and that's important. Like the same thing with Father Bob. I have the privilege and the benefit of working with other teams and advising. Father Bob and I, we are the chief spiritual advisors for the Warren Society, and he's got his other things, and I help out mostly in the Spanish countries because I speak Spanish. So it's just been a blessing to be able to depart some of that knowledge. And it's not about forcing religion or forcing belief, but what we are trying to enforce is like there's a set theological framework and how and why we do things. And it's not just a pseudoscience. We know that throughout our history and throughout our experience, through the testimony of scripture, the apostles, and church history, that these prayers can work, they can be powerful, and you don't necessarily have to believe or be a Christian, but we just want to empower you and help you understand where we're coming from and potentially give you the tools to be more successful, especially in this type of work, because we don't know what we're communicating with. A lot of investigators, the presupposition is that I've got this piece of equipment, I've got this gadget, and now it's communicating, and the lights and the bells and the whistles are ringing, and you think you know what you're talking about. Well, you really don't. No one really understands what we're communicating with. And to sit here and say, well, now that's an elemental from the third underworld of the Drax's symposium. How do you know that? So that's kind of what we're trying to teach people to avoid, mislabeling as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I think that also that and it's been my experience too that people say, well, how do you handle someone who's a different belief system? If they have a tradition that deals with spiritual warfare, I'll encourage them to stay close to their faith. But how there's no atheists in foxholes. I haven't found a family yet, whether they're Catholic or not, that doesn't, that wouldn't say, yeah, do what you can do.
Right.
I'm not offended by your Catholic prayers and your Catholic rituals, because we have to work under the framework that we know, and that's what I know to work.
Right. Yeah.
So, I can't go into a Buddhist and do Buddhist prayers,
Right.
Right. You have your specialty that you're trained in, and that makes sense, and you.
Well, you move from a foundation. If you differ from that foundation, the foundation gets weak, right? So
Right.
going into something, you have to stick with what you know, because that's your foundation and that's where your strength and your faith is.
Right.
So,
and it works for us. And this is our vocation. This is our job. So anything else, it's just compromising. Most people would have us try to compromise our faith or our beliefs, and we tell them we're not here to do that.
Right.
We may not necessarily agree with how you're doing it, with what you're doing, or what your particular faith system is. But if you're reaching out to us, then chances are it's not working. And
Right.
so we'll try to give you advice the best way we can.
right.
Yeah. For instance, I'm dealing with a Protestant pastor who contacted me with actually for Ryan Buell, so I knew I worked with him, and so now I took him on for us at the Holy Sword, and his church was having some serious issues on the land. There was some things happening there that were very odd, and he didn't know how to handle it. So I said, I'm willing to help you if you don't mind Catholic, and he didn't mind at all.
Yeah.
So again, the whole thing is, if they're reaching out, then they're willing to be open, to that. But I have to work under the framework that I know that works best.
Right.
Well,
And
and
so
if you're in a situation where faith is key, it doesn't matter how you label the faith. Faith is still faith, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And so much of our faith is experiential and mystical, and so that gives us an opportunity and a good vantage point to be able to help those that are in need. People say, well, Father, the church doesn't help out enough. Well, what do you mean the church doesn't help out? The church at its core, we're not there to chase ghosts. We're there to help and guide. We're there to pastor. We're there to offer the sacraments. So I think people get this idea or they get upset with the church. And I understand, I suppose that there have been some instances in the past where some of the claims are not taken seriously. But one thing I have noticed, and I will let people know, if you approach a church and you think you're having some sort of spiritual activity, and if you approach the church, please don't say paranormal, say supernatural, because there's a difference between the words paranormal and supernatural. So much of our faith is intrinsically involved in the supernatural. So we believe in the divine energies, we believe in angels, demons, that sort of thing. We also know and believe that God can allow certain things to happen. And so our job is just to offer the faithful advice. Like within Orthodoxy, our approach is a little different when it comes to exorcism. Not like our Roman rites, right? Our Roman counterparts. For us, it's completely different. It's a sacramental life. It's praying. It's the Mass. It's participating in the sacraments. And the idea is not to confront the demon. Our goal is to help restore the individual person back to health. So it is a healing ministry. It is a vocation. We use prayers like St. John Chrysostom, St. Basil the Great, sometimes just the regular Jesus prayer or Lord have mercy on us. Powerful, because within Orthodoxy, it is mystical. And that's what we focus on, the mysteries of the church. And so our approach is a little different than our Roman counterparts when it comes to the exorcism part.
For with us, it is more confrontational because, it's just taken from how Christ dealt with evil spirits in the scriptures, and so we take it from that we do battle for the souls of the people, and it is inherent in our priesthood to be able to do that. However, unlike others, we can't exercise that without permission, and there's a good reason for that, because the bishop has to have confidence in the person that he's sending out, because it's dangerous. It's more than, if you've ever seen a true sense, a true thing of a demoniac, a real demoniac, it's dangerous. It's foreboding, and so you have to have the right person to be able to do that has the right disposition. Not every priest can do that,
Right.
so it's a wise thing. Sometimes it's frustrating. You want them to act a little faster, but I do understand where that comes from. But ours is more of a doing battle, which is the framework that I come from.
Yeah.
And then after that, then we work with them to center them in the spiritual life, so that doesn't happen again. That they have to embrace some kind of faith, so that the evil doesn't come back.
Yeah.
So, quick question. So how does Catholic or Orthodox teaching help us kind of understand or interpret supernatural or, supernatural events, I guess? I mean, you may have kind of touched on it already with what you described, but I was just curious if there's any one area specific that you focus on when you get called to do.
Are you talking to a miraculous or a demonic?
I guess more of a demonic. I guess we can touch on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I think for us, it's based on like what the church fathers teach, our discernment. Like within Orthodoxy, it teaches that not all supernatural encounters are demonic, but discernment is essential. So the church will evaluate the phenomena, right? We have to look at the fruit of the encounter. Does it lead to repentance, humility, and prayer, or fear or pride? What is the context? Is it consistent with the church's sacramental and eschatological understanding of the afterlife? And we also look at spiritual authority. Encounters should be brought to a spiritual father or bishop for guidance, but there's also the theological framework and the pastoral implications. And a lot of that's just how we approach it, divine energies, sacramental worldview, but more importantly, discernment. Does it fall in with the teachings of the church? Prayer and discernment is the biggest thing. Like I said, for us, it's not direct confrontational. We are we are healing and we are trying to understand what that individual is going through. So if the person says, "Hey, Padres, I think I have something going on," well, what is your prayer life like? We're not going to focus on what the supernatural is. We're going to focus on the individual themselves. What is your life like? What is your prayer like? Are you going to mass? Are you going to confession? Are you receiving communion? What is your family life like? Are you addicted to drugs, to alcohol, whatever that sort of stuff? So we look at the physiology, the physical factors first, and then we also look at the spirituality, and does it align with the church teachings or what the church fathers have to say? And we approach that from that perspective.
And I think also, like, if I'm called, when I've been called, that I do interview them, and it's fairly, not always, but it's fairly easy to see after you interview a person whether there is some emotional, mental issue in that, and I could tell you, funny instances where we've run into it. It wasn't funny at the time. Now it is, but that people just, just come at us that they have this spiritual problem, this demonic problem, and really it isn't. But I think that the first thing we try to do is ask them what their faith life is, and that's for the victory to come over evil. You must practice faith, and you must use your faith. We do the battle, but after the battle, you need to have a change of life and begin to add some things, some safeguards to protect the hedge that's created around home or whatever's going on. And when that happens, it's usually it's a positive outcome, and the phenomenon doesn't come back.
Right. Right.
If they don't, it'll come back. Sometimes it'll come back worse. And I've seen that. I've had that happen.
So I've got a question for both of you, and you actually get more direct contact than, say, paranormal investigators do with the supernatural, of course, right? But our audience, speaking to the two of you that do this every day, day in and day out, you're helping people. What is the percentage of supernatural versus demonic versus somebody that just needs mental assistance, physical assistance, life assistance?
It's hard to quantify that for me. What I can say about the demonic part, it's 0.1%. I know I spent 5 years with the Warren Legacy Foundation, and I worked over 300 cases, and 98% of those were just like mental illness or shadows at the corner of the eye. There were 2 cases that were actually like demonic in nature. One was oppression, and one was a full-on possession. But that's rare. It's 1%. And even then, if there is a possession, that's not the focus. We don't pay attention to what that entity is. So, I mean, it depends, I guess, where you're located or how many cases you've worked.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many. I've never counted how many, to be honest with you. So I don't know how many cases, but I've been doing this for many years. But I would say it's more than that. Maybe it's just the people that God sends me.
Yeah.
But there are more than that. But there are many that have psychological cases, and some that have both. And I've had to counsel people to get both done. So we cleanse the home, we pray over the person for deliverance, but now there's some emotional issues that need to be healed and need to be looked at. And in order for the person to be whole again, you have to there's a part A and a part B. So we've had that, but I've had my share of real authentic demonic ones. So it just might be, who comes to us, and who sends us,
Right. For both of you, I guess cases that you've dealt with, have you, when you've gone on and you found that there is a supernatural or demonic or some type of event occurring with that individual, is it usually a multiple one-time visit, or is it multiple kind of visits to where that you have to work through with that individual to, kind of get them where they need to be?
It depends on the individual. Each case is different. It's rare that it's just one issue, just one thing, because you do want to have follow-up.
Right.
You want to have a
Right.
preliminary, then you have the dealing of the issue, and then you have the follow-up. So
Right.
it's very rarely that one thing happens, unless you really know that person, has deep-seated emotional issues, and there's really nothing you can do. Or I got to be honest with you, I was at one where it was a full-fledged demonic, um, an amazing case, and I tried for a few hours to liberate this person, and it was then she began to show signs, classic signs in the Roman ritual of the demonic. So I realized then it's like, whoa, this is far over. I can't
Right.
keep on. I need the blessing of the church to be able to do this. So I stopped and I called the local bishop. So in that instance, it was just one time, and then on bishop of the diocese handled it from there.
In there.
But usually, sometimes it can take months. I'm dealing with a house, friends with a house now that I've been dealing with for several years.
Speaking of house, so do you, in the cases that you have both encountered, have you found that there have been previous incidents dealing with the house, the land, that could have kind of affected the individuals?
Yeah. Original intention. It's like if you go buy something at a thrift store, an old doll that you like. I always tell people, make sure you bless it and you pray for it, because you don't know what intention was on it. It might not be a bad intention, but either way, you just want to pray for it and cleanse it and just rebuke all attachments or negativity to it. That's why it's important. Like when you get a home, have it blessed, have it blessed, and have it sealed by the church. It's important. And going back to the other question, a lot of what we do is pastoral counseling. So even when we meet you, and even if it's something supernatural, so to speak, the job is just pastoral counseling, trying to get together with you as much as we can, offering you guidance, praying for you, trying to have you come back to the church, the fullness of grace, coming back to the church and receiving the sacraments and the Eucharist. And that's the thing within our faith. We know that the Eucharist, the sacraments, are more powerful than anything. And so we can just draw you back to Christ. That's really what the goal is. And it's by chaplaincy and pastoral counseling and guiding those to the right path. Even though they might be afflicted, they can find liberation in that. I've had a couple of cases where just chaplaincy and pastoral counseling has averted an individual from becoming completely possessed, so to speak, because we're not focusing on the exterior activity. We're not focusing on whatever it's called. We're not focusing on the things that are happening in the house. We're focusing on your sacramental life. And if you are of the faith, and if you are a Christian Catholic, remember your faith is powerful. And when you stop drawing from that well, when you stop coming to church, when you stop believing in Christ, that's where problems arise.
Yeah, and getting back to your original question about the land and all that, sometimes it is something with the land that has happened before. Okay, it could be cursed. It could be violence. I mean, when you're living in New England, you're living mostly Native American.
Right.
So there've been massacres. There've been a lot of bad things have happened. So sometimes it isn't necessarily the house; it's the land, which is why we do the hedge of protection and and pray for healing and 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 to cleanse and to cleanse the land itself, because there is something to that. So again, a case that I'm working on, we can't fully find it out, yet what's going on, but there is a lot of Native American stuff there. So there may have been, and there were famous massacres in Rhode Island, in skirmishes. So trying to find where we can again pray for healing with that, to create that hedge of protection around. So yeah, to answer that question, it could be. It could be land. It could be anything. It could be a family curse that's handed down from one generation to another. I used to do a thing years ago called healing the family tree, and that we dealt with stuff that's been handed on through the bloodline and through the generational curses. And some of it's really tough. Really
That's
tough.
interesting. I mean, I never thought of it
Yeah.
that being a generational thing, that it could be passed down from one generation to the next. That's kind of mind-boggling,
It can.
actually, when you mention that.
It can, and especially if the family isn't strong in faith, well then that's a perfect storm for for something to happen. So, but
Sins of the father, right?
I've seen it. Huh? The sins of the father.
Like
Yeah,
sins of the father.
yeah, and it's like it's just things that have been unresolved and all of that are still a mark on the family that need to be healed, that need to be reconciled with God through prayer. And what we used to do the healing masses, healing of the family tree masses, offer mass in the house, on the land, whatever, to do that. And I haven't done that in a long time. I have to admit, but yeah.
Yeah. I was born in '84, Father Bob. So you were on your 15th year of ministry, I think.
So actually, that's a good question. So, Father Bob, when were you ordained?
1993.
Okay. And Father Ken?
2020.
2020. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm still fairly new to this.
He's wet behind the ears.
Yeah.
He still has the oil.
Yeah, I still do.
He still has the oil behind him.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So how did you both kind of meet? How did your paths cross?
It's a day that will live in infamy.
Oh yeah, so we met through this app called Exorcism Drive-Thru, where a whole bunch of exorcists just post like their appointments, and so we're like, "Whoa, I know you, you know me." So we kind of met, we linked up, and we're like,
We met on an
"Guys."
exorcist dating line.
Yeah, we did.
Swipe right.
Yeah, right. No, we just met at this. We met at the Exorcism Drive-Thru. He was getting a cheeseburger, I was getting a hot dog. Oh, so
Yeah. Well, actually, he had peanut butter and I had chocolate.
Yeah.
And he jilted his car, and the peanut butter ended up in my chocolate. So, the rest is
That's how those things go,
Yeah.
Hey.
No, but on a serious
No,
note,
honestly, we haven't met. That's the thing.
yeah,
We have never met.
physically,
What?
no.
We know each other well.
Father
We talk
Bob,
to
can
each
I
other
introduce you to
once a
Father
day.
Ken?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I think if I could, he can. Father Ken can correct me, but when I was getting to know Joe Frankie from the Warren Society, he talked about a priest friend on the West Coast, Father Torres. I had heard of him,
Bad things.
I knew of him. I don't know if we were friends on Facebook at that point yet.
I was
We might have
afraid.
been.
No, we weren't friends. I was afraid to be your friend. I was like, oh my gosh, here we go.
Of course you should be.
I was like, this guy's gonna bust my chops. He's like, oh, look at this. Look at this.
Guess what?
Eastern-
I do. No.
Yeah, look at
So,
this.
anyways,
Look at
as
this
he was
Eastern
talking
guy.
to him, as he was talking to me about it, Joe Frankie, I said, you know what? I had just lost my partner in ministry, and I was really hurting with that, and I was gonna kind of like not sure where to go with it, and so we ended up talking. He reached out to me, I reached out to him. I'm not sure, and then I just floated with the idea. I said, "Would you like to help me in building the Holy Sword?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that right? Is that what happened,
Yeah,
Ken?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And
So
so that's how it began.
yeah,
And
we
we
ended up.
haven't met each other. We'll meet each other finally in August. The
Yes,
blind
yes,
date
Lord
will
will.
be over.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean that's true. That we did meet that way. I reached out to you. I knew about him, and so I reached out and we talked. And actually, our conversation it was really wonderful. But at the same time, it was from his end. It was a discernment process because we have to be honest. Within this Facebook community, there are a lot of clergy, and finding someone that has true valid apostolic succession saying who they say they are. So, Father Bob kind of rigorously interviewed me. And I mean, I think we went from theology to eschatology. We went through a lot of different conversations. And a few days later, I think, but it was more of a discernment process. It was kind of an interview. We were friends, but then it was an interview process. And I think I hope I made the cut.
If not, I would have kicked you to the dust.
There we go.
Kicking you to the
No,
curb,
and I just
Father
thought,
Ken.
and I thought it was a neat thing that first of all we're on two separate coasts, and two that we're from the east and from the west of the traditions. And I've always had a love for the Eastern Church,
Yeah.
and as St. John Paul II always said, they're the two lungs of the body of Christ that help it to breathe.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was a great thing,
Yeah. He's
to
on the
work
East
that.
Coast
So
and he's Western, and I'm on the West Coast and I'm Eastern.
he's Eastern, yeah.
No, and I mean, and I think it's just a beautiful synergy. Yeah, obviously, obviously we know that there are certain theological things that we have a difference on, but the truth is we have a love for Christ. That's the most important thing. A lot of our theology aligns.
He's a heretic, but he's a good heretic.
Well, he's a good heretic too. Well, we would call him a papist.
I love that term.
Yeah. But no, I mean, and it's a beautiful synergy. I mean, it's just two men who love God and really in Christ, and we're just trying to help out our community. The paranormal field, I think, for lack of better terms, is flourishing into something that's not very fruitful. And so we want to try to be that guide, that light behind that. And it's not about taking sides. It's about talking to people and educating them and giving them our advice. I mean, look, it's not that it's ego or arrogant. We have certain theological training and credentials behind us. We live a life of ministry. We know what we mean. We say what we mean. We don't compromise our morals, our integrity for anyone. If we say this is what it is, this is what it is. And simple as that. And it fascinates me that you will have a lot of other people out there who will go to unqualified individuals to ask them for advice. When you have literally two people right here with postgraduate degrees, doctorate degrees, experience in ministry, experience in outreach, doing community service and living this life of ministry as opposed to others. Well, like, I just read a book. Come talk to me and I'll talk to you about demonology and possession. That's the problem. That's the problem.
Yeah. And I think, and I'm very sensitive to that because, I went through 8 years of seminary, a year of internship as deacon to be ordained, and it wasn't easy, but we have to know our stuff. We have to study, because you can really screw somebody up if you don't know your stuff.
Yeah.
And to just get something online or just, be ordained after a year
Right.
from some spurious person who, and I have to be careful of my own, and this is, I don't think it's ego, but it's being discerning. I have to be careful about my reputation and who I align to because people will judge you by, and there are so-called clergy out there who are giving bad advice.
Yeah.
There are clergy out there who are practicing occultic things.
Yeah.
And so you got to be very careful. You got to be very careful.
Yeah. Just like with you, Father Bob, it took me 8 years to get my master's in pastoral counseling, then another 4 years to get my doctorate. I did 2 years as a diaconate, and then I did my formation, then I got my consecration, and it was something special. People go through this run of the mill where, look, power to you if, and I say this with love and respect, if you get ordained online through ULC or whatever it is, and you find it in your heart that your ministry is like marrying people, you know what? Praise be to God. God bless you in your ministry. But your ordination or consecration, whatever you call it, is not comparable to the consecration and ordination that Father Bob and I have and other
It's
clergy.
not even biblical.
It's not even biblical.
There's no
You have
laying
no laying of
hands.
hands, there's
There's
no
nothing.
oil, there's nothing. And so you'll have all of these other people who have different beliefs. So let's say, for example, they're pagan, but all of a sudden they're ordained. Well, I mean, you're an ordained minister. I mean, how are you even a minister? Minister is not even within that vernacular of that doxology or that framework. And so what I find is a lot of people want to be like clergy, want to be like us, like authentic and licit, and for whatever reason they just choose to go a different route. That's not authentic.
So, what Mary Beth wants to know, you shouldn't get your title from a cereal box.
Correct. Correct.
No, a cigar box, yes.
Cigar box, right. Yeah.
Or better yet, a whiskey bottle.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, it's basically the same in any profession. Yours just happens to be faith, but it's you don't hire a plumber to come and rewire your house, right?
Right.
It's the same thing. You want the expert doing it. You want the guy that's been doing it for years with the experience and the education to back it up, especially when it comes to faith and especially when it comes to supernatural or even a demonic type situation that you find yourself in. That's you don't want somebody coming in like, I'll be honest, I got my cereal box, ordained minister. I've done some weddings, right?
Cool. Nothing wrong with that.
All
That's
right.
a beautiful ministry. That's as long as
All right,
long.
give me some wood. I'm gonna have to tie him up.
Well, and that's what I tell
I'm not
people.
calling up to try and be a part of this. I respect you guys too much.
Well, and that's the thing, though. You're being honest about it, and there's nothing wrong with that authenticity. I think people that want to go out and marry other people, that's a beautiful thing. Marriage is a sacrament. Marriage is an emulation of Christ and the church, and so even marrying someone is a very special thing. But I'm glad you understand and know the authenticity, behind what your calling is and what the scope of your abilities are. Right.
Chris, you're not going to be like Oprah and go out. You get an exorcism. You get an exorcism.
No.
You get an exorcism. Nothing like that, right?
No.
You get two.
Well, and so everybody knows Audra and I are also sensitive as paranormal investigators, right? We walk into a situation and I get that nasty feeling in my gut. We don't stick around and play with it. We're out.
Yeah.
We go. There's a cemetery not too far from us that we do investigations at. There's a section of the cemetery where we get a lot of responses. We catch a lot of evidence, right? There's also another portion of that cemetery that's very dark. And when the energy picks up in that portion of the cemetery, I literally go, get in the car, let's go. I'm not going to sit and go, hey, I got my license. I'm going to fight these demons. No, that's not happening.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
gone.
Part of the whole issue is knowing your limits. Okay, if you go in there and you sense something, you say, "I'm not ready for this. This isn't." It's an honest response, and that's good. So you go and get somebody who can, and that's why I've tried over the years to teach paranormal investigators. Okay, if you run into something dark, okay, don't try to be a hero, especially if you don't know how to deal with it. Stop, call somebody like me. I can go and help you, but don't go in there just, know your gut, and know your limit and be honest. I
So,
don't think I have the level to do that.
Mr. Iacovetti has a question for you. How do both fathers feel about the idea of mediums or those who provide spiritual guidance regulated and registered for qualifications, given that they are often guiding the vulnerable?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you even quantify an qualitative state? I don't think you can quantify that. I mean, that's a tough question. I mean, who would do the regulating, right? And also, too, there are a lot of people who are gifted and have that gift of discernment. I mean, how do we tell who's real and who isn't? But I do think that there are other classes and schools online that can teach you how to become certified. Maybe that's an option. I don't know.
Well, I think that first of all, uh, like I myself wouldn't feel like I about mixing, like gifted people, yes. I think it's a semantics sometimes
Yeah.
that people who have gifts, they don't know what to call it. So they call themselves, I'm psychic, I'm mixed,
Yeah.
I'm a medium, because they have a sensitivity, they have an empathy. But these may very well be gifts from God, of the Holy
Right.
Spirit, that are
Right.
not, telling the future and divination and all of that. Um, so I got to be honest with you. I've worked with many so-called mediums, and I've debunked most of them. But there are some people who have authentic gifts.
Right.
There are some people, but there's not as now. If you look on the internet, everybody and their brother or sister is a medium. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
mediums, shamans, oh, blah, blah. It's like, come on, you know. So I've had bad experiences with
Could I
that. So
could I share a personal experience? Because I know we're running low on
yeah,
time. But
Okay.
we worked on a case a few years ago. A family reached out to us. I was with another organization. A family reached out to us, and they had mentioned that their son is schizophrenic, a triple schizophrenic, that sort of stuff. Had was developmentally disabled, but was seeing spirits and having auditory and visual hallucinations. So they called us up a week after another team came through. They were like, "Hey, you know what? We need you guys. You guys work with this organization, so and so, and we need your help because we had a team that came out the week before, charged us $5,000, and their medium told our son, our schizophrenic son, developmental disabled, that he had 72 legions of demons with him.
Oh my.
And so, this medium took a course online the week before. There goes the regulation. They
Oh
took
my
a course. They took a course. They took a regulated course that certified them as a gifted medium and psychic. And so anyway, now we have to down talk the family. So we met with the family. We spoke with them for about an hour, and we reconvened. We're like, we're going to go ahead and reconvene because now we are elevating these traumas, because first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that when you talk to the families, you don't bring up any mixed emotions. You always want to control the narrative or the environment. You want to make sure that you don't upset them. And so we were going to reschedule this call, to get more information and potentially talk to the child. A few weeks goes by, a month goes by, they call us back, "Hey, Father Ken, we can't work with you." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, did we do something wrong?" No, unfortunately, our son took his life. He left a suicide note saying that he took his life because the psychic told him there were 72 legions of demons.
Ugh.
And so, yeah, there are people that are wonderfully gifted out there, and at the same time, I think often that term is used
yeah. I don't know how
loosely.
you can be
Yeah,
certified for something like that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
It's like an ordained demonologist. There's no such thing.
yeah, yeah.
That's just
And if you're gonna, and if you're going to study under someone, make sure that you physically study under them. By that theory, I've studied under Einstein, theory of relativity, because I read his book. There's practical application and there's theory. Most people understand theory and want to apply it, and that's where PhD level training comes in. That's where master's levels training come in. Like Father Bob and I, we have the practical application and we have the theory down, and we can report and we can make adjustments because we understand what we're doing. But most people don't have that ability. You can't quantify a qualitative state.
Well, not only that situation alone. So
Mhm.
their son has all those different issues, and then this medium comes in and says this line of crap. Excuse my French. It's usually worse than that, but because Father Bob and Father Ken are on tonight, I'm controlling myself. But
I
gives
was
them
a
this
fire chaplain.
oh, there you're good. You're good then. But I mean, it gives them false hope, because then they start thinking, okay, well, if I bring Father Ken and Father Bob in and they exorcise all these demons off my son, then maybe he can live a normal life where he probably couldn't have, because it's not going to take away anything.
It doesn't take away the schizophrenia.
It doesn't take away the schizophrenia. The
It
disability is
doesn't.
still there.
It doesn't. No, we'll offer prayer. We'll offer healing services, not a deliverance. We'll offer guidance. Really, that's what we do. That's our job. We're there to comfort the afflicted. And affliction doesn't mean possessed. Afflicted means that someone is really going through some spiritual turmoil. Like affliction can mean I'm having a crisis of faith and I don't want to go to church because something happened and I lost my faith. Well, how do we get you back to that point? I think what ends up happening is everyone focuses on the exterior. Every team, not every team, correction, most amateur teams want to focus on the thrill of the hunt and the excitement, and they want to catch the goblins and the ghosts, but they're neglecting the family. That is always the main priority. The family is always the main priority. Their feelings, their spirituality, their emotions, that is number one. Cameras, equipment, that's all secondary. And if you fail and you get that backwards, then that's fine. If you're going out there to hunt, I won't really mess with you. That's a derogatory term, hunting ghosts. They're not circus animals. If you're going to go out to try to capture evidence and try to quantify it, and you want to try to label it, and you want to put it through a scientific, rubrics, that's wonderful. But if you're going out to help people and you're not providing solutions, that's the problem as well. People are well equipped with equipment, right? But they don't know how to provide tangible solutions. It's just like when someone says, well, I'm going to pray for you. Okay, well, let me offer you some tangible advice. Well, hey, Father Bob, Father Ken, I lost my job. I need food. I'll pray for you. Okay, all right, that's great. But we offer tangible advice. All right, let's get you connected with the food bank. Let's get you connected with the counselor. Let's get you connected with the city. Let's call the water department to see if we can get your water reconnected. Let's go ahead and see if we can get you a letter and get you in affordable housing. That's what you need to do. You have to have tangible experience. You have to be able to do tangible things for your clients.
I actually had a quick little story. So, we've been relatively new to doing investigations. And I had somebody reach out on Facebook saying, oh, I have sent me videos, this, that, statue being thrown in a room, having experiences. And I'm like, all right. And I went through a whole list of questions. What made you, how did this happen? What was the root of the cause? I says, first and foremost, have you reached out to your local pastor or your religion or whatever? I says, says, I'm in New Jersey, you're in Ohio or somewhere. I forget exactly where they were. I says, you want to try and reach out to somebody local that can, if this is a serious, genuine issue, then you need to reach out to somebody that's local, church, if you're,
That's one of the things that Father Bob and I do. When people reach out to us, have you contacted your local priest? Yeah, they told us to do this. Sorry, we can't work with you. Listen to your local priest. Listen to the bishop. Listen to your pastor. Follow their advice. We'll never step on anyone's toes. Yeah. Just because we're clergy and we have
but I also have to interject that a lot of times it's not an openness to it.
That's true.
Which has been my frustration over the years.
Yeah.
They do go to their priests or their ministers, and they say, "Oh no, it's that there's no such thing as personified evil.
Yeah.
You're crazy, or you got a psychological issue."
Yeah.
And that's a frustration. That's why I asked the bishop's permission years ago for me to enter into this, to bring something to the table.
Yeah.
As a Roman Catholic, and there's not many of us that do it. And which probably why I get so many of those type of cases, because there's not many Roman Catholic priests that are out there publicly talking about it.
Right.
But sometimes they do try to reach out, and
well, that is the exception, Father Bob. That is true. But that's always just a core question, because many people, it's like, well, are you doing what they're telling you to do? No, I've already did it. It's not working. Well, are you doing fervently? Are you praying? Do you really have faith in what you're saying and what you're doing? No, it's not working. Or I just don't like my local priest. Okay. And it's tough, but we try to maintain that ethical and professional boundary, but there is that exception, like Father Bob did mention.
Well, guys,
I have no ethics.
I hate to cut this short. I have no ethics. I hate to cut this short. We could go on for hours and hours. I had tons of questions, but guys, you were such fantastic guests. You were answering the questions before I could even ask them. This was a phenomenal show. Thank you guys for being on.
That's because we're saying.
Yeah.
That's right.
We're the Psycho Padres.
Yeah. It's because
I'm making a T-shirt out of that one, Father Bob.
I was looking into my crystal bottle, and I got all the answers.
Well, guys, thank you so much for being on. We appreciate you guys being on. I would ask where you guys can be found, where is a website that people can go to where they can read about the ministry, reach out to you guys if necessary? Can you go ahead and put that out before we cut the show?
Yeah, it would be www.holyswordapostolate, apostolate.com. That's the website.
Yep.
Or you can go either one of us on our Facebook. I have Father Bob at Holy Sword. Father Ken has his own,
Yeah.
our individual Facebooks. You can get,
Yeah.
in touch with us. But if you want to know about the ministry and all of that, and we're really developing that too.
Yeah.
So it's really the website is really beautifully becoming more of a teaching
Right.
vehicle.
Fantastic. Well,
But they
again,
can reach out in that.
awesome. Thank you guys again for being on. Fantastic guests. This was a fantastic
Absolutely.
show.
We really do appreciate it.
Loved everything. Really do appreciate it.
And one last thing, I didn't mention it earlier. Ken, Father Reverend Ken, thank you very much for your service. We appreciate your service.
Yes, thank you for your service.
Oh, not a problem. Thank you.
All right, guys. So, guys, make sure you tune in next week to Stay Haunted. Guys, I've said this before on the show, and I'll say it again. Stay haunted doesn't mean go out and chase ghosts. Stay haunted doesn't mean go out and look for paranormal. Stay haunted has a whole different meaning behind it. Sometimes it's go out and do the investigating. Make sure that you capture the evidence. Respect the spirits that you're talking to. As both fathers pointed out tonight, make sure you know when to get out. But Stay Haunted is also positive. Stay Haunted also has the fact behind it, and you've heard Todd and Carmela talk about it. You've heard Audra and I talk about it on multiple shows. It also has stay faithful. Okay? So faith is a big thing behind what we all do. This is one of the reasons why we wanted Father Ken and Father Bob on. Faith is huge in our lives. We're not just paranormal investigators out there looking for ghosts, right? We actually there's things behind what we do. There's a reason behind what we do. And Stay Haunted is not a negative connotation about what we do. Stay Haunted is a positive connotation. It's about families, friends, getting together, true friendship through everything. But most of all, one thing that is very solid between Todd and Carmela and Audra and I is our faith. And that's why we had you guys on tonight. So thank you so much for being on the show tonight. Guys, we will see you next week. And always, stay haunted. Good
Thanks,
night,
everybody in chat. Good night.
I love that. I love that hat, by the way. The Star Wars theme letters. I saw that.
That's on my green screen.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, guys.
All right,
Good night,
Father
everybody.
Bob. I'll talk
God
to you
bless.
tomorrow, brother. God bless you.